The Phantom Dive attack on Dragapult EX is undoubtedly one of the strongest attacks that we have access to in the game. However, we're mostly seeing Phantom Dive paired with Regidrago V-Star rather than its own archetype, because as of late, having the Stage 2 version has fallen short in the last couple of sets. However, in the Stellar Crown expansion, there are a couple of crucial cards which interact specifically with Tera Pokemon, and Dragapult EX itself is of course a terrestrial Pokemon, so we can cash in on a fantastic new ACE SPEC card, the Sparkling Crystal, which reduces the attack cost of a Tera Pokemon by one of any energy type, and of course we are playing two different types of energy in the list, so we can attach either of our basic energy and then use the Sparkling Crystal to fulfill that secondary energy cost. This is a monster upgrade on Neo Upper Energy in previous builds of Dragapult Pidgeot, because you'd actually require Quick Search to search out the Neo Upper Energy unless you naturally drew into it, whereas now we can Arven for the Sparkling Crystal, giving ourselves a much more accessible means of a turn 2 Phantom Dive. The other big Tera payoff card that we gain from this set is Briar, allowing us to take an additional prize card with a knockout from our Tera EX Pokemon. This can only be played if your opponent has 2 prize cards remaining, but as we know, Dragapult is very good at setting up multiple KOs throughout the game, and now we can use this Briar supporter card to further manipulate our prize map and take a huge number of prizes with one attack. Briar fits in really nicely with a deck list like this that obviously had a number of 2-prize Pokemon the opponent can go through, but we also have the Dusknoir line in the deck, making the Phantom Dive damage counter placement much more powerful, but also leaning into the Briar supporter as well, where the opponent may be trying to play around the Briar, you can force them down to those 2 prizes and put yourself in the driver's seat once again. The other small upgrade is the Crispin supporter, which is a bit more of a proactive means of energy accelerating compared to a Mela, which you would have to use after suffering a KO. Crispin allows us to grab 2 energy, one of them immediately is attached to a Pokemon, the other goes to our hand. They have to be different energy types, which works perfectly in a Dragapult EX deck because of our attack cost, but also can help us weave Radiant Charizard into the game a little bit earlier as well. Similar to sometimes seeing Charizard EX players opting to have double turbo energy, we can use Crispin in this case to speed up a Radiant Charizard attack as well. Let's get on to some considerations for the decklist itself then. Right now, I'm not playing a Stadium Bounce in any way, so you could definitely think about having a Lost Vacuum. That could also give us some tool removal, which can be really strong. Definitely getting rid of Bravery Charms, which some players can use to offset our math. Or we could look to have the Collapse Stadium, definitely going to be handy for getting rid of cards like Lumineon or Rotom that we used in the opening stages to get set up with Forest Seal Stone and force a more difficult prize map. Now that we no longer have Neo Up Energy in the decklist, we could look towards the Temple of Sinnoh in the 60 as well to give ourselves that tech option against the Lugia matchup, whilst also being a generic Stadium Bounce for things like Pokestop. I'm also currently not playing a Switch Out in the deck, which might be a little bit risky. The Crispin can help us attach towards a Radiant Charizard retreat play after attacking with it, but it still can get a little bit dicey, so thinking about having a Kieran in the deck list, which can be damage mod as well, which is handy in a number of situations. There's the Professor Churros scenario, of course, which could be another way to remove some basic 2 prizes from play, and also the Thornton. We know it can be really strong with the Dusknoir line, we've seen that in Charizard, and it also has other upsides with sort of fixing our bench. Possibly just finding your favourite out of those 3 are worth including in the list. There are also 6 basic one-offs in the list, so you could definitely think about weaving in the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Speaking of one-off basics, we could think about having Flying Entry from Hawlucha. We know it's very good in the Regidrago build, so why not have it in the actual Dragapult deck as well? And we can think about giving ourselves some extra end-of-turn style effects, not just the instant charge from Rotom. There's the possibility of Cleffa, which is obviously Buddy Poffin searchable, and possibly even the TM Evolution could come into the deck list. We know Drakloak is great, but you could even flip-flop one Cloak into a Pidgeotto, find a space for that TM Evo, and then you have multiple Stage 1 Pokemon that you can tutor with this tool card. Do you think these new Tera cards are going to be enough to put Dragapult back on the map, or is it still going to be the discard pile fodder for the Regidrago V-Star archetype? I'll hear your thoughts down below, but for now, enjoy the games. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code, OmniPoke. So getting into our first game then, Jack is going to be playing the Dragapult archetype on the right, and I'm going to start off with a Charizard Pidgeot deck with Dusknoir and also the new Great Tree ACE SPEC. It's a card that hasn't really shone just yet in our testing, but still something we want to experiment with because there is still great synergistic plays you can make with that card. Jack's going to get to go first, has the Dreepy start as well as a Buddy Poffin, pretty much everything you could hope for as player going first. And as we know, Dragapult can put so much pressure on when it does get to go first, especially into evolving archetypes. Jack actually does have Psychic Energy in hand, so a turn 1 attachment could be massive. I think he's also got Ultra Ball and Nest Ball in hand. So if he can Nest Ball out Rotom and just end on 3 cards here from an instant charge, that could be absolutely huge and set him up nicely for the following turn. And even attaching active would really put a lot of pressure on me here. Looks really strong. I think he's already got, what is that, the Dragapult and a Fezandipti in hand. He is just going to shuffle up though. No Nestball. Possibly there's no access to the Rotom V here. I feel like that surely had to have been the best thing you could grab. It's just going to be the pass, so yeah, likely it's going to be a prized Rotom you'd expect. I have the early Charmander and a Duskull. Don't have the usual Arven, so we are just going to have that Iono. Let's get a fresh 6. Looking for more basics, and we do find a Buddy Poffin on that last card, which is pretty important. So I can get second Charmander down at least. And I've already got a 60 hit point Duskull down, so I may as well also put a 60 hit point Pidgey down. And I don't think there's many actions I have after this. I'm just going to be hoping that Jack can't get towards that rare candy plus the sparkling crystal or an attachment. Let's see how his new hand treats him. Starts off with a Drakloak. I think it's Ultra Ball and a Dreepy. Both pretty solid options. Picks up the Ultra Ball, which is looking pretty nice. And has the Lumineon V in hand. I think there's also rare candy in hand, so this is going to mean a very strong turn coming in from Jack now. You'd imagine Arven for Forest, plus another item here. If it's a second rare candy, you can Candy Pidge with the Ultra Ball in hand, and then you can grab the other pieces for Dragapult as well. So it should be in pretty good stead. You can see the Sparkling Crystal coming to the top of the deck there. One of the reasons why this is just so much of an upgrade for the Dragapult players is that Arven can help in terms of weaving in some energy acceleration. Jack does have to find the Arven here to actually grab these pieces, and I think I remind him before the game goes on. Yeah, he is going to get the Arven out and then do the thing. And as you'd expect, he can Ultra Ball now pop off with Candy Pidge, Candy Pult. So he will be taking 2 prizes this turn. You'd imagine he's taking out the Pidge. And that's going to be pretty insane, to be honest with you. As we see Candy Pult, there is the Crystal. He does bench a Radiant Charizard now, and I think that's a small misstep from him, just because our list doesn't have switching cards. And I think the game's going to devolve into a situation where I don't have much to do outside of trapping. So I think the one bench of Radiant Charizard is going to make this game a lot funkier, actually. And that's just getting to know the lists sort of thing. That we didn't actually make the space for a switching card, and I did mention something like a Kieran, a Professor Churro, or even a Thornton could all be reasonable in this deck, and I think in this game you're gonna partially see how it can come up as an issue. Maybe not this turn though, because it looks like I'm just going for Rotom plus Forest of Stone off the Arven. Well, gonna get Nestball Forest, then the Forest is gonna be flipped for that Buddy Poffin, so I can just get another Charmander down. I'm not sure if I have anything else in hand. I'm pretty sure I'm just holding on to a bunch of Stage 1 Pokemon, which is really not ideal. Yeah, there's the Dusclops. There is the Charmeleon, and we are going to bring up the Radiant Charizard and just end on an instant charge, and hope that the 3 retreat cost of Radiant Charizard is going to be a headache for Jack. Even with that Pidgeot, he actually doesn't have outs to just move this guy, so it can be like a manual attachment this turn, then maybe a Crispin the following turn to get rid of this Radiant Charizard, get it out the active. But it should mean that I've bought a ton of breathing room here. He's actually going to Crispin this turn, so he can start to work on this Radiant Charizard, getting it out the active. As he's going to also manually attach for the turn onto the Charizard. And looks like he just has to pass things over here. So could have just been an issue with our deck building, to be honest, but also with the list as it was, there was no real need to, no urgency to put down the Radiant Charizard as he did. My hand is absolutely terrible. I have Pidgeotto, Cancelling Clone, Fire, Radzard, Briar. So that's about as bad as it gets. I'm just going to have to instant charge once again. So Jack should be able to retreat out of this Radiant Charizard and get back to business with the Dragapult. See Iono and Briar. And I have just instant charged again, so even though I did nothing last turn, the Iono's not a bad play, and I think it did just get rid of Ultra Ball and a few other pieces for me, so I'm actually a little bit frustrated that I do end up losing that hand. And I draw into absolute guff again! Poffin, Candy, Rod, Boss, Collapsed, Fire. So sad. Just gonna... looks like Pidgeot's next. He has got Duskull down as well, which is also terrifying. You can take 1 prize this turn with the Dragapult, take out the Charmeleon, and also start prepping damage onto something. It's whether or not he wants to, you know, he could start pressurizing the Charmander and the Dusclops even, if he wants to split up the damage. We're going to see a turn attachment of the Radiant Charizard, so it has been an expensive retreat, and it's just all going to go onto the Charmander here. And yeah, this new hand is abysmal. The only thing it has is a boss to maybe once again bring up the Radiant Charizard. I think there's 0 single cards that I could draw that makes this hand like great, I think. And a Pidgeot EX is not a great card. Certainly not. So we are just going to bring back Radiant Charizard. This game is going to get a bit funky for sure. And we're going to rod back Charmeleon, Charmander, and Pidgey. Nope, just Pidgey, by the looks of things. And then we're going to Poffin back the Pidge. Oh, we are also going to get the Charmander back into the deck with the rod before Poffining. There is some argument to rod back the Charmeleon as well, just for Great Tree. But you also never really want to Great Tree the Charizard, right? We're just going to Rotom up again for 3 cards. Have I got anywhere near stuff? I have Candy Pidgeot for next turn, at least. Jack has to rebuild some energy onto this Radiant Zard. He's a Crispin down as well, so it will be 3 manual attachments to move this Radzard at least. And as you can see, the game has completely changed just on the face of it, just because of this bench. Otherwise, Jack would have been far in the distance by now with just a spam of Dragapult attacks. We're going to see an Ultra Ball. Going to grab Dusknoir. Now this could, well, yeah, it has Candy Dusk, so he's still going to take out that Pidgey and deny me a Pidgeot EX next turn, which is still frustrating, because I now have Candy Arven in hand and Pidgeot in hand. So I am at least looking at getting Charizard into the mix next turn. Jack's going to flip Forest and get Fire after rodding back those 3 energy he's paid retreat previously. And then he's going to Iono me, which is so frustrating because my candies are once again going to the bottom of the deck, and my Arven and my Ultra Ball, so one of these days we're going to find a stage 2. One of these days. I think I've even drawn 6 there, and I should have drawn 5 because the Dusknoir's given me a prize card. Or is that the draw for turn as well? Yeah, I must have drawn for turn as well. We do have the ACE SPEC Stadium, and we have Rod, so I could once again put Charmeleon back into the deck. Then maybe just evolve up into Charmeleon, or even just manually attach to a Charmander whilst going all the way up to Charizard. That's possible. I have a Countercatcher in hand as well. Let's see what we're going to do here. Thinking about this Rod on Charmeleon or not. That's the big question mark here. Do I just put that into play? It gives Jack potential. Well, he's already played the Rod, so he couldn't like reuse a Dusknoir. No, I'm just going to hold everything and draw 3 more cards here. And hope to get towards a combination. Because the one good thing for me is that if I use a Dusknoir myself on Jack's 1 Dragapult, or even on Drakloak, it could be a situation where I like take out Drakloak whilst also then gusting up Pidgeot EX, taking that out, then going down to 2 prize cards myself and having a way towards like just finishing off Lumineon. So I'm actually not that out of the game just because of how crazy Dusknoir can be with Charizard. So that's what I'm sort of banking on. Next turn, maybe if I can Candy Zard, evolve into Dusknoir, counter catch up the Pidgeots and KO it. I'm actually getting towards something here. Jack's going to Nest Ball out Rotom, then he's going to Quick Search for another energy just to attach retreat this Charizard. Oh, sorry, just to attach the Charizard so he can retreat it next turn, and then he Rotoms up. So let's see if I can actually pull something off here. I have Ultra Ball getting rid of Arven and Poffin. And I'm also just having a look at some resources here. Jack is 2 prize cards away from winning, so he would be a boss away from game. So I have to deal with the Pidgeot, right? That has to happen. And I probably have to Iono his hand as well, because his hand is like pretty large, and I would just lose the boss on my Rotom. So I have to Dusknoir, deal with Drakloak to give Jack another prize card, so then I can gust up the Pidgeot, KO it. And then I'm like representing games. Jack's at 1 prize into his Dragapult or anything else on the board. So if I can go Candy Zard this turn, I could actually still be in the game here. Going to attach to Charmander, going to bring up the Pidgeot EX, then play Iono. We still haven't used a single candy all game. And we're hoping that from 5 cards we can Iono into Candyzard. Can we get there? No. Just the Candy. We can Dusknoir one more chance, one more card off the prizes, and it's a Nespal. And I still can't do anything. I actually think with the Iono there, if I can Candy into Zard, take out Pidgeot, I have a very high likelihood of actually tanking with Zard and actually having a way to close there. Jack wouldn't have been able to find Boss by the looks of things from his hand. He would have had Fez. Oh, the Fez would have actually drawn the Boss as well. So that was a really weird game, and it was all down to that Radiant Charizard bench. Things were very awkward for me. I think I prized 2 Candy and a Charizard, so that was always going to be a little bit rough. But it was just overall very silly how that all played out. And Charizard, with its back against the wall, still could have made something happen. I think if I had used the Great Tree, actually, I would have been able to make that combo happen. So I wouldn't have needed Candy, I would have just needed the Zard. Or again, if I'd done the like pre-attach rather than just like ignore Infernal Rain, I still could have had a chance there. So that's something to think about in future for Charizard. But now we're getting into that second game. Jack's still on the Pult, and I'm going to be playing Miraidon. And this is a new updated list that has the Area 0 Underdepths. It's using the Terrestrial Mewtwo EX, which is of course a lightning type, which we can search out with Miraidon EX to allow us to go wider on the bench. It means that the Raikou V is a much more dangerous attacker in the deck. And that's kind of the key update we've done with the list. It's still very much staying true to Jesse Parker's top 4 list. In terms of like counts of most things here, just adding in a few more spaces for stadiums overall. Jack is going first, and he starts off with a Rotom V, and looks like he's got Ultra Ball in hand. I see Dreepy in the hand as well. He's got multiple Ultra Ball actually in the hand and Candy for next turn, so he may just want to get down like double Dreepy perhaps, or yeah, he can go for Pidgey as well. Maybe thinking with the 2 prizer in the active position, he's thinking that I won't go for anything else. I'll just take the 2 as they sit there on the board. So we can go 1 Dreepy, 1 Pidgey, and if there is a bundle, he'll just have to sacrifice Pidgey, I suppose. And this 3 cards can get him closer towards a Pidgeot, and he actually picks up another rare candy as well, so that's a pretty good opener, all things considered, for Jack. I'm going to start with the Fleet-Footed from Raikou, because I'm holding on to some generators, and we did find the Nespal, which is pretty big here. I'm also going to use Greninja. I'm looking for more Ball Search, actually. We do find the second Nespal, which is absolutely massive, because now I can go for Miraidon plus Squawkabilly for the fresh hand. So very happy that I went for the concealed cards before committing this Ball Search, because now I can get the best of both worlds. I can get Miraidon, get my value with the generators, but then I actually have stuff after the fact with a fresh 6 from Squawk. So we'll now tandem unit out a couple Lightning chaps. It's going to be an Iron Hands EX, as well as a Mewtwo EX, of course, allowing myself, and Terrestrial Pokemon means that now I can draw Area 0 and put that into play and go even wider on the bench. And now we can start firing off some generators, and we do hit a double Lightning from the get-go. The Miraidon EX, of course, can get into the action quite quickly and deal with a Rotom, if we want it to. And here comes second generator, and we hit another double, so looking very good for us. Really strong start from the Miraidon side. Maximum value from both generators. We're playing 15 Lightning in the list, so still decent ratios. And we do have to get rid of 2 Boss and a second copy of Area 0, which is a bit scary. But we can keep churning through here. We still have a supporter to play as well, and that's why we're Ultra Walling for Lumineon now. And that can grab us Arven. We're going to grab Rescue Board so we can retreat this Raikou V. And, oh, maybe we're thinking twice. Yeah, it's going to be Rescue Board. The hand isn't great after that, though. I'm just holding on to some basic Lightning Energy. Obviously, I can attach one for the turn. Am I just taking Prime for a following turn here? I could just grab Nespal for something like Mew EX or Fez for later. Maybe even I could get Mew draw this turn with the turn attachment of Lightning onto the hands, perhaps, or onto the Raikou V. There's reasons to like both. If I attach to the Raikou, it means I don't need to hit future generators or DTE. If I attach to the hands, I'm just representing more 2-prize options on future turns. I'm even going to Bravery Charm so I can play around Defiance Band. And then we're going to take our first 2-prize KO and pass things over to Jack. We know he's sat on a good hand, though. We know he's got a couple Candy. We know he's got Ultra Ball. So we should be able to sculpt a means of getting both Pidgeot EX and Dragapult established. Which again means he's getting a turn to attack in, and again it's testament to the Sparkling Crystal that's in hand. So looking pretty solid, to be honest. He's going to get rid of Earthen Vessel and Pidgey with this Ultra Ball. And he's going to grab Pidgeot EX. Candy into that Pidge. Then Quick Search grabs the Dragapult. So it looks like he's actually going cleanly down to a 0-card hand here in order to get this attack. But the name of the game is just get rolling with the Dragapult. That's one of the big boasts of this new list. You are just so much more likely to get a turn to attack in. And it puts him into just much better stead. He can put 3 on the Iron Hand, setting that up for a Phantom Dive cleanly. And where else does he want to put the damage? It's going to go onto the Mewtwo EX, which also has 230 hit points, I believe. So he's done a similar deal there. I have an Ultra Ball that I can play. I'm going to get rid of a Squawkabilly and a Raikou V. And looks like we're getting good old Iron Bundle. We have the bench space thanks to Area 0. So I can force the Pidgeot into the active. Jack's 0-card hand is going to get pretty aggressively punished now. And I can also Arven for Switch Cart and Forest Seal Stone. There's obviously the Lumineon on the board as well. And with the Switch Cart, I can go into Raikou and also get a draw in. Oh, looks like I go to Mew. I don't know why I don't go Raikou there. Oh, it's because I'm drawing 3 with Mew anyway. Yeah, I mean, I still could have gone Raikou, right? I could have drawn the 3, then got the Fleet-Footed card. Don't know why I've gone that way round about it, but we are going to end on another 2-prize KO on this Pidgeot thanks to weakness. Jack draws 1 for the turn. He's actually still in the game, to be honest with you. Like, he can still carve out a lot of prizes. He'll be taking 2 guaranteed. And then it's just where he wants this 6 to go. I feel like, yeah, Squawkabilly is still reasonable here. He also gets 2 additional cards to maybe work with. I saw an Ultra Ball flashed there, so if he has access to something, he could get back into the game. It would be another rare candy being discarded by the looks of things, unless it's his top deck that he can discard. I need to make sure that I can 2-shot this Dragapult now that the Miraidon's KO'd. We're going to grab Nespal and Forest Seal Stone. Nespal can grab Fezandipti EX. So now we are at the full 8 bench. We're also going to just slam down more cards for a Fez draw into the Raikou draw. Do have a generator. Does hit the double. And it means I'm going to have double hands established just to make it so that Jack can't really afford to put down evolving basics is kind of the idea here whilst I punch into the Dragapult. Looks like Jack did find a supporter off the top as well, so he might still be in the game here. I'm going to see a Radiant Charizard come out with the Ultra Ball. What was the final card in hand? I think it was a supporter. Yeah, it's an Iono, so he can get 4 fresh cards here. He does find energy as well. That's pretty massive. Do you see the Duskull come down? I do think that's a risk, because I can win with Gust Game now. Well, I guess I could anyway, because the Dragapult's damaged, so it doesn't actually change what he loses to. He can attack with the Radiant Charizard, go down to 2 himself, force me to have Gust, but I do have the Forest Seal Stone, of course. And I can Prime Catcher. Oh no, I already have the Arven in hand, so I just have to Forest for not that, and I can Arven for the other piece. Which allows me to attack with Arm Press to finish off the Dragapult for the final 2 prizes. So, yeah, some interesting games there with the Dragapult. I think definitely we can think about adding in some switching cards to the archetype, as I said towards the start of the video. But we saw in both games a turn 2 Dragapult EX attack, and in both situations it was in thanks to the Sparkling Crystal helping you get there. So it really does show that you just have much more reliability with this new approach to the deck. Do you think it's going to be enough for this archetype to reach those top tables once again, or are there still vulnerabilities? I'll hear your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for another tabletop testing. Cheers.